and answered in our catechism in regard to the lodge. Asterisk, 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 A lodge is defined to be an assemblage of Freemasons, truly congregated, having the sacred writing, square, and compass, and a charter, or warrant of constitution, authorizing them to work. The room or place in which they meet, representing some part of King Solomon's temple, is also called the lodge, and it is that we are now considering. It is said to be supported by three great columns: wisdom, force or strength, and beauty, represented by the master, the senior warden, and the junior warden, and these are said to be the columns that support the lodge, because wisdom, strength, and beauty are the perfections of everything, and nothing can endure without them. Because the York Rite says, it is necessary that there should be wisdom to conceive, strength to support, and beauty to adorn all great and important undertakings. Know ye not, says the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. If any man desecrate the temple of God, shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. The wisdom and power of the deity are in equilibrium. The laws of nature and the moral laws are not the mere despotic mandate of his omnipotent will, for then they might be changed by him, and order become disorder, and good and right become evil and wrong, honesty and loyalty, vices, and fraud, ingratitude, and vice, virtue. Omnipotent power, infinite, and existing alone, would necessarily not be constrained to consistency. Its decrees and laws could not be immutable. The laws of God are not obligatory on us because they are the enactments of his power, or the expression of his will, but because they express his infinite wisdom. They are not right because they are his laws, but his laws because they are right. From the equilibrium of infinite wisdom and infinite force results perfect harmony in physics and in the moral universe. Wisdom, thrower, and harmony constitute one Masonic triad. They have other and profounder meanings that may at some time be unveiled to you. As to the ordinary and commonplace explanation, it may be added that the wisdom of the architect is displayed in combining as only a skillful architect can do, and as God has done everywhere, for example, in the tree, the human frame, the egg, the cells of the honeycomb, strength with grace, beauty, symmetry, proportion, lightness. Ornamentation. That, too, is the perfection of the orator and poet to combine force, strength, energy, with grace, with style, musical cadences, the beauty of figures, the play and irradiation of imagination and fancy, and so, in a state, the warlike and industrial force of the people, and their titanic strength, must be combined with the beauty of the arts, the sciences, and the intellect, if the state would scale the heights of excellence, and the people be really freed. Harmony in this, as in all the divine, the material, and the human, is the result of equilibrium, of the sympathy and opposite actions of contraries, a single wisdom above them holding the beam of the scales. To reconcile the moral law, human responsibility, free will, with the absolute power of God, and the existence of evil with his absolute wisdom, and goodness, and mercy, these are the great enigmas of the Sphinx. You enter the lodge between the columns. They represent the two which stood in the porch of the temple, on each side of the great eastern gateway. These pillars, of bronze, 4 fingers breadth in thickness, were, according to the most authentic account, that in the first and that in the second book of Kings, confirmed in Jeremiah, 18 cubits high, with a capital 5 cubits high. The shaft of each was 4 cubits in diameter. The cubit is 1 foot and 707 over 1,000. That is, the shaft of each was a little over 30 feet 8 inches in height, the capital of each a little over 8 feet 6 inches in height, and the diameter of the shaft 6 feet 10 inches. The capitals were enriched by pomegranates of bronze, covered by bronze network, and ornamented with wreaths of bronze, and appear to have imitated the shape of the seed vessel of the lotus or Egyptian lily, a sacred symbol to the Hindus and Egyptians. The pillar or column on the right, or in the south, was named, as the Hebrew word is rendered in our translation of the Bible, Aaphin, and that on the left both as. Our translators say that the first word means, he shall establish, and the second, in it is strength. These columns were imitations by Corinth, the tyrann and artist of the great columns consecrated to the wine and fire, at the entrance to the famous temple of Apprentice, in the city of Tyre. It is customary, in lodges of the York Rite, to see a celestial globe on one, and a terrestrial globe on the other, but these are not warranted, if the object be to imitate the original two columns of the temple. The symbolic meaning of these columns we shall leave for the present unexplained, only adding that under the parentheses keep their working tools in the column AACHIN, and giving you the etymology and literal meaning of the two names. The word AACHIN, in Hebrew, probably pronounced Yagian, and men, as a verbal noun, he that strengthens, and thence, firm, stable, upright. The word goes as Izbah, which means strong, strength, power, might, refuge, source of strength, or fort. The prefix means within, and gives the word the force of the Latin gerund, roberando, strengthening. The former word also means he will establish, or plant in an erect position, from the verb con, he stood erect. It probably meant active and vivifying energy and force, and both as stability, permanence, in the passive sense. The dimensions of the lodge, our brethren of the York Rite say, are unlimited, and its covering no less than the canopy of heaven. To this object, they say, the mason's mind is continually directed, and thither he hopes at last to arrive by the aid of the theological ladder which Japheth in his vision saw descending from earth to heaven, the three principal rounds of which are denominated faith, hope, and charity, and which admonish us to have faith in God, hope in immortality, and charity to all mankind. Accordingly the ladder, sometimes with 9 rounds, is seen on the chart, resting at the bottom on the earth, its top in the clouds, the stars shining above it, and this is deemed to represent that mystic ladder, which Japheth saw in his dream, set up on the earth, and the top of it reaching to heaven, with the angel ascending and descending on it. The addition of the 3 principal rounds to the symbolism is wholly modern and incongruous. The ancients counted 7 planets, thus arranged: the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. There were 7 heavens and 7 spheres of these planets. On all the monuments of Mithras are 7 altars or pyres, consecrated to the 7 planets, as were the 7 lamps of the golden candelabrum in the temple. That these represented the planets, we are assured by Clemens of Alexandria, in his Stromatis, and by Philojupaeus. To return to its source in the infinite, the human soul, the ancients held, had to ascend, as it had descended, through the 7 spheres. The ladder by which it reascends has, according to Marcellus Vixenius, in his commentary on the Enneads Plotinus, 7 degrees 4 steps, and in the Mysteries of Mithras, carried to Rome under the emperor. The ladder, with its 7 rounds, was a symbol referring to this ascent through the spheres of the 7 planets. Japheth saw the spirits of God ascending and descending on it, and above it the deity himself. The Mithraic mysteries were celebrated in caves, where dates were marked at the 4 equinoctial and solstitial points of the zodiac, and the 7 planetary spheres were represented, which souls needs must traverse in descending from the heaven of the fixed stars to the element that envelop the earth, and 7 gates were marked, one for each planet, through which they passed, in descending or returning. We learn this from Celsus, in Origin, who says that the symbolic image of this passage among the stars, used in the Mithraic mysteries, was a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, divided into 7 steps or stages, to each of which was a gate, and at the summit in gate 1, that of the fixed stars. The symbol was the same as that of the 7 stages of Orsiphus, the pyramid of vitrified brick, near Babylon, built of 7 stages, and each of a different color. In the Mithraic ceremonies, the candidate went through 7 stages of initiation, passing through many fearful trials, and of these, high ladder with 7 rounds or steps was the symbol. You see the lodge, its details and ornaments, by its lights. You have already heard what these lights, the greater and lesser, are said to be, and how they are spoken of by our brethren of the York Rite. The Holy Bible, square, encompasses, are not only styled the great lights in masonry, but they are also technically called the furniture of the lodge, and, as you have seen, it is held that there is no lodge without them. This has sometimes been made a pretext for excluding Jews from our lodges, because they cannot regard the New Testament as a holy book. The Bible is an indispensable part of the furniture of a Christian lodge, only because it is the sacred book of the Christian religion. The Hebrew Pentateuch in the Hebrew lodge, and the Quran in the Mohammedan one, belong on the altar, and one of these, and the square and compass, properly understood, are the great lights by which a mason must walk and work. The obligation of the candidate is always to be taken on the sacred book or books of his religion, that he may deem it more solemn than binding, and therefore it was that you were asked of what religion you were. We have no other concern with your religious creed. The square is a right angle, formed by two right lines. It is adapted only to a plane surface, and belongs only to geometry, earth measurement, that trigonometry which deals only with planes, and with the earth, which the ancients supposed to be a plane. The compass describes circles, and deals with spherical trigonometry, the science of the spheres and heavens. The former, therefore, is an input of what concerns the earth and the body, the latter of what concerns the heavens and the soul. Yet the compass is also used in plane trigonometry, as in directing perpendiculars, and, therefore, you are reminded that, although in this degree both points of the compass are under the square, and you are now dealing only with the moral and political meaning of the symbols, and not with their philosophical and spiritual meanings, still the divine ever mingles with the human, with the earthly the spiritual intermixes, and there is something spiritual in the common beauties of life. The nations are not bodies politic alone, but also souls politic. And woe to that people which, seeking the material only, forgets that it has a soul. Then we have a race, petrified in dogma, which presupposes the absence of a soul and the presence only of memory and instinct, or demoralized by Luther. Such a nature can't never leave civilization. Genuflection before the idol or the dollar atrophies the muscle which walks and the will which moves. Hieratic or mercantile absorption diminishes the radiance of a people, lowers its horizon by lowering its level, and deprives it of that understanding of the universal aim, at the same time human and divine, which makes the missionary nations, the free people, forgetting that it has a soul to be cared for, devotes all its energies to its material advancement. If it makes war, it is to subserve its commercial interests. The citizens copy after the state, and regard wealth, pomp, and luxury as the great goods of life. Such a nation creates wealth rapidly, and distributes it badly. Thence the two extremes, of monstrous opulence and monstrous misery, all the enjoyment to a few, all the privations to the rest. That is to say, to the people, privilege, exception, monopoly, brutality, springing up from labor itself, a false and dangerous situation, which, making labor a blinded and chained cyclops, in the mine, at the forge, in the workshop, at the loom, in the field, over poisonous fumes, in miasmatic cells, in unventilated factories, found public power upon private misery, and plants the greatness of the state in the suffering of the individual. It is a greatness ill constituted, in which all the material elements are combined, and into which no moral element enters. If a people, like a star, has the right of eclipse, the light ought to return. The eclipse should not degenerate into night. The three lesser, or the sublime lights, you have heard, are the sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge, and you have heard what our brethren of your right say in regard to them, and why they hold them to be lights of the lodge. But the sun and moon do in no sense light the lodge, unless it be symbolically, and then the lights are not they, but those things of which they are the symbols. Of what they are the symbols the mason in that right is not told, nor does the moon in any sense rule the night with regularity. The sun is the ancient symbol of the life-giving and generative power of the deity. To the ancients, light was the cause of life, and God was the source from which all light flowed, the essence of light, the invisible fire, developed as flame, manifested as light and splendor. The sun was his manifestation and visible image, and the Sabians worshipping the light god, seemed to worship the sun, in whom they saw the manifestation of the deity. The moon was the symbol of the passive capacity of nature to produce, the female, of which the life-giving power and energy was the male. It was the symbol of Isis, Astarte, and Artemis, or Diana. The master of life was the supreme deity, above both, and manifested through both. Zeus, the son of Saturn, become king of the gods. Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, become the master of life. Dionysos or Bacchus, like Mithras, become the author of light and life and truth. Asterisk, asterisk.